Welcome back to
Mommy's house.
Mommy's house. And don't you forget it. Michael, it is good to see you. Sometimes I think we forget that we like each other.
Sometimes. But you make it so easy, Amir.
Thank you.
To remember. I missed you while you were in Israel.
Yeah, I was in Israel for 3 weeks, basically. Did my own little birthright. We caught up on that off the pod, and it was, needless to say, an amazing place, the greatest country. I'm on my seminary girl high, Israel, which was really great.
And you're writing a book now about Jim Crow in the West Bank because you spent a few weeks there.
I realized when I went with the literary festival, my life would never be the same. What I saw, the things that I saw, I made up my mind within a week. I made up my mind. You want to talk about the Ta-Nehisi Hodes thing for a second?
Did you hear Douglas Murray on the Free Press?
Yes.
Just
destroy him?
Oh,
well, this is the kind of thing that one of the journalists goes for 2 weeks and decides preconceived that he already has an idea of how he's going. What did he say specifically?
He's like, isn't it so convenient that you make your career describing Jim Crow and then you go around the world explaining how everything can be described that way? Isn't that convenient?
Yep. Isn't that convenient?
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that was an interesting one when he went around making his rounds and he's just so praised and worshipped in these media left-wing circles, Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he apparently, people say, writes very good prose and all that. But to go for, you have to ask yourself, you're not really curious about this. It's so obvious if you have how convenient that you have a preconceived notion of what it is and then you go and that's fully affirmed. Right. I don't know. I try to wonder what he really feels inside if he believes himself, you know?
I'm also like in his editor, like how do no one at the publishing house be like, I mean, it's because he's not, I don't know if he calls himself a journalist. I think Douglas Murray said also like, he's a memoirist. And so when he writes about things, he doesn't research them like a journalist. He researches them like a memoirist. So this is his story. He's going around the world looking at the world through his perspective and telling his story, which is what he does.
I can't accept that.
But it's not journalism.
I can't accept that. I can't accept that because I had a preconceived notion coming here. I can't accept that. That's what he said to Ezra Klein. I can't accept that. But
I need to listen to.
You have a hot what?
I need to listen to Ezra Klein interview. I have a hot take on the CBS guy
who challenged him.
Yeah, who got grilled for it. What was he thinking? He works at CBS. He knows how this works. Why did he think he was going to get away with that? He knows this isn't a hard-hitting news program where you can ask real hard-hitting journalistic questions.
Well, don't you respect him for that?
I respect him for it, but I'm also of course this was the fallout from it. Guy. You're up in arms about I can't believe this is where I work. It's you really can't believe that's where you work? That's where you work. You know CBS better than anybody.
And that it's supposed to be a friendly morning show. We love your book.
Yeah, exactly. And he comes out with these questions, which are great questions, but that's not what they do there.
Right. So, but I think the guy said, you know what? It sounded like he's I'm sick. I just I'm drawing the line here. Mm-hmm. I gotta not just be this little giddy morning host and says, so wonderful because this is actually an issue that's close to me. And what? I respect it because I think he's saying, look at the fallout, not in surprise, but as a sort of admission of a threshold that's been finally breached.
It's just weird that he spent his whole life achieving a job on the CBS morning show and then woke up one day and was like, I think I'm just going to burn it all down today.
Yeah, but what does it say about the state of the news media that a simple pushback like that on a morning show is burning it all down? He didn't get up there and start dropping F-bombs and cursing the guy out, but just asking, hey, I actually disagree here, burning it all down. That says something more about CBS than him. You know?
It does. But
you're saying, do you know where
Right.
You're saying, do you know where you are?
Right.
But he's not acting really so surprised. I think the world is noticing the quiet part out loud, that everyone just worships at the ground of Ta-Nehisi Coates, and to push back on it.
Yeah, everyone's like, Ta-Nehisi, are you okay? Are you such hard questions? Are you okay?
I guess to his credit, he's like, I'm okay with a tough interview. I'm okay with. The truth is, if you watch that, wasn't an awkward. It wasn't awkward.
It wasn't awkward. It
was fine.
And he was like, I've been prepared to answer this question. Ask away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was. The fact that Ta-Nehisi didn't make a fuss about it. Everybody else
Right.
did.
It's more condescending to him, I think, where they're like,
Yeah.
I can't believe you had to go through that.
Yeah. So there's a funny thing about that too. But anyway, that was troublesome. And just to see also everybody being like, yeah, if I was in Gaza and on October 7th, would I be able to hold back from slaughtering Israelis? I might have been able to do it, you know? And everyone's like, right, of course, right. I'm like, oh God, I don't know. He's also had some views just straight up. I think it's Ta-Nehisi Coates, but people in that sort of vein of writing about white America in this sort of broad brush sort of way and looking at white people and looking at people killed on 9/11 as just these abstractions, not as human beings. I remember asking one of these conservative black intellectuals that we met at Dissident Dialogues, Warder, something Warder, I'll get his name. Glenn Lowry and his other guy, I forget, Thomas.
Right, the fire guy, right?
I was not the fire guy, different guy, but I was like, what is your take? He's like, well, I think at the end of the day, people like him and Ibram X. Kendi, they're just racists. They're just racists who write good prose, but they're just racists who hate white people. And that's really what it is. So and they can dance around the issue and code it in all of this language of narrative and history and depression, but really they're just judging white people by the color of their skin and then lumping Israel as white in Ta-Nehisi Coates' scenario here. So that's all. That's at the end of the day, there's just like fancy ways of being racist and elegant, educated ivory tower ways of being racist in the modern day. It's the same thing with what being anti-Zionist really ultimately comes down to. Right. It's just a fancy way of being sophisticatedly racist. You said it in a previous episode once that you're like, you can't say the old ways of hating Jews. That's out of favor.
Which, by the way, is why I'm not, because we're going to talk about the election. It's why I'm a lot less concerned about anti-Semitism on the far right, because they're trying to bring it back to 1939, which is never going to happen. No one's ever going to walk around with. I don't think anyone's walking around with swastikas because everyone still agrees that's too much. So like, I'm not worried about that coming back. I'm worried about something new coming.
Well,
you know,
only
the far right is committed to like 30s anti-Semitism.
But only the left can't get down with that. They have a different one.
Oh, I think most people in the world can't get down with that, but I think most people in the world can in some way get down with anti-Zionism.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuval Noah Harari. I'm a professor and an author, and I want to let you know that Ami's house, Beit Ami, is now on Patreon for just 5 stories a month.
Yuval, it's not 5 stories, it's $5 a month.
No, it's a story.
We need dollars though.
Everything is a story, Michael. All of life is a story. Everything is sapiens and everything is stories about sapiens. You are sapien, I'm a sapien, this room, sapien.
So $5 a month?
5 stories a month.
Dollars.
Yes, and when I put my kid to bed at night, you know, when they lose a tooth, I put a story under the pillow.
Moving on to election coverage, this is like kind of our election special, because there's been so much that's happened since we last spoke on the like sort of currents of the campaigns going on. But the most recent thing is that it's so funny to me that it feels like the Democrats have one move. They have one tactic. They keep deploying it. It keeps being rejected over and over and over again. And that is to call all their opponents Nazis or racists. And anything that they feel threatened by in terms of the energy on the Republican side, they call and delegitimize and demonize as racist, evidenced by what they described and categorized the MSG rally that Trump just threw as oh, well, you know who else had a rally there? The Nazi Party in the 1930s and the people who supported them. I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of events at MSG since the 1930s that have sold out, and no one calls it that. But it just seems like they only have one move, and it's to call it that. And it's so tired, and it's so continually rejected, and makes Republicans stronger. It makes Trump's case better, and they keep doing it. And I just can't understand the tactic. Do you know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing the same thing with the Tony Hinchcliffe roast, where it's like, it's this imagined Hispanic voter who's going to be outraged by it. I mean, I can't imagine that there was a lot of outrage in the Hispanic community for it, like amongst normal people. Like it was like a dumb joke that he made.
Yeah,
like I'm saying, like it's the same thing. Like they think, and the thing is, and it didn't work in it hardly worked in 2016 and 2020. Like
Yeah.
they barely beat him in 2020,
Right.
and it's not working. I don't think it's working now either.
And it has the reverse effect. They're imagining, and they're and I see them making statements in response to Tony Hinchcliffe's joke that somewhat landed, somewhat didn't. Being in the room is different than when you're hearing it on a direct mic feed from a clip where you hear him and you don't hear the sprinkling of laughs, and people are talking about it as if it's a this faux fake controversy that they're manufacturing.
Right.
Just everything on their side, energy wise, is manufactured. The positive energy around Kamala Harris is manufactured. The negative portrayals of the opponents on the Republican side is manufactured. They manufacture scandal and outrage as if there's this boogeyman that isn't there, as opposed to like taking it head on. I can't see how they think this works.
And the real story, the opposite of manufactured, is there was a line around 34th Street trying to get into MSG. Like, could Kamala create that kind of buzz at MSG?
Exactly.
I don't think so. And I'm not saying who I'm voting for or whatever. Like, but there's
you will at the end of the episode.
There's real enthusiasm around Trump right now that does not exist around her.
And they missed the forest for the trees. Somebody sent something to me who I won't say, but who's not a fan of Trump, but was like, can you believe that he got Rudy Giuliani up there? Ugh, could he have thought of anybody else? I'm like,
did he? Did he really?
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani spoke.
That's
He's like, he got Rudy Giuliani to speak at a sold-out Madison Square Garden in the middle of enemy territory, New York City, with lines around the block. And you think, and like you're pinpointing to that as what an idiot. I'm like, this is exactly why I think he's going to win in a landslide.
So the thing you said that interests me most about this election right now is you called New York enemy territory. Mm-hmm. I think what no one is quite aware of right now is how many people went from in 2016, like me, being disgusted by Trump. Like people from the New York area who saw right through him, who thought he was disgusting, would protest an MSG rally, to 8 years later filling up MSG in New York City. How many people went from being disgusted by him to being enthusiastically voting for him is wild. And I don't even think we're aware of the extent yet, especially among women I speak to. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many women I've spoken to who like cannot vote for Kamala, who have been so disenchanted by the last 8 years or so, or whatever, or last 4 years.
Well, do you think a lot of that's the October 7th factor?
Yeah, a lot of it is the October 7th. Yeah, I guess like white Jewish women. Yeah, but people who you would never imagine voting for Trump are now either not voting or voting for Trump. I
mean, there's there's sort of two categories. There's the Trump voter formed post October 7th that's sort of just like, listen, like they've been so like the Harris Biden administration has been so lip servicey about everything, saying one thing and doing another, talking out of both sides of the mouth, trying to appease the disgusting condemnation side against Israel and trying to say like, we hear you, and not having moral clarity on the issue and consistency. And they've been seeing that weakness. And what's crazy in general is like, so you're seeing that shift for those voters in the Jewish community who care about Israel. And they're like, listen, he may be an asshole, but he's my asshole now. And that's what we need, because we're fighting people worse than assholes, people who don't just speak badly, but people who are violent and want to destroy our people. And if I have to take somebody who I wouldn't necessarily condone all his language, I don't care, so they're shifting that. But in general, what I've also noticed that no one's really acknowledging, especially on the Democratic side, is all of the positions that Trump took once upon a time, all the things he used to say that deemed him a racist, fascist, xenophobe on immigration, all of those policy things. Now, to say those things is just Democrats trying to compete with him on how strong they are at the border, on how much they're going to handle the problem of illegal immigration. When he used to talk about this in 2016, people were like, oh, how dare you? But everything has moved. Mm-hmm. Everything has moved in his favor, to the point where even Democrats are trying to out-Trump Trump and say, no, we're better and more. Like, they're not trying to contrast. They're trying to say, like, we are strong on foreign policy. We're strong on closing down the border. Like, that's a win for him in terms of how he shifted the whole conversation and took a lot of heat for it to his personal character in the public perception of him as this monster now everyone has moved, which is like the most Trumpian thing you can do, which is to say something crazy, people get shocked, but there's a truth resonance in there, and everybody eventually moves that way.
Well, what great politicians do is they identify constituencies and issues that can unite people from both sides towards the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kamala is not a great politician. She hasn't what Trump did is he identified, I think there's 250 million people who may not otherwise vote for me, but can all coalesce around this one issue, and I will get them all to vote for me and win a national election. I think from what I understand, like Bill Clinton did that also in like the 90s. He realized like there's people in the middle of the left and the right who I can find certain issues that they agree on, and I'll create this mass amount of people who can vote for me, and I'll become president.
This coalition.
Yeah. I mean, and so Trump did that in 2016 around immigration. No one's talking about immigration, but he realized like this issue can win me the presidency. Enough people care about it, and no one else realizes that yet. And he was right, and that's why both parties have to talk about it now.
But was he making something up to cause hysteria then, or was he onto something that eventually everybody woke up to?
I from what I understand, he didn't care about immigration, but he spoke about it at a rally, and his spidey senses went up because if he's good at anything, he's good at that. And he realized, oh, this has like traction. People are getting really excited about this. And they did some research and they realized actually, like you're right, Trump. Like people do care a lot about immigration more than anyone realizes. Yeah. And he rode that wave so much so that now everyone's riding it.
But that description of him also is like the presumption is he's just like looking for opportunities to try to win and doesn't really care and doesn't have that sort of compassionate wants something good for the country kind of thing, which is what I think over time,
I don't know if I think that about him. So I guess that is what I'm saying.
Has that perception of him changed until now, given that they're trying to kill him? There's been attacks on his life. He still goes on. I have seen a side that I think has been revealed of like, Jordan Peterson was doing analysis of him that he does have a fair amount of narcissism. He's also hyper extroverted, one of the most extroverted human beings on the planet of all time, but also unlike narcissists has compassion. He's like most narcissists don't have compassion. And so that's a really dangerous quality in a person. But Trump has narcissism, but paired with compassion can channel into a very effective, formidable politician, which we've seen, where he actually wants to do well. And then you see interviews that I've seen where he talks about, people bring up things that he's done that he's never talked about. I saw one, like, I forgot this guy, this like bouncer who's on Gutfeld, security guard guy. He's like, now you took my dog and you actually paid for this person's. Well, I don't talk about that. I don't talk about it, but it's something I wanted to do and I don't like to talk about it. And I don't know. Like
as many stories as there are about that, there are stories about him screwing people over too.
Right. But that just, that
on
means
an individual basis.
But that just means it's a far more complex person who's more of that sort of tragic anti-hero figure that has a lot more layers than just the monster boogeyman, fake manufactured enemy that the Democrats try to paint him as.
I've come around to that more, and that's also really surprising to me. I have more positive feelings about him than I ever thought I would. Like I do sometimes think, oh, maybe he really does just want what's best for America. And I don't know if I believe that, but I think that sometimes. Yeah. And that's new.
Then if you watch, the one thing you can't deny, and this isn't just meant to gloat about like Trump, it's more about like actually trying to process what I'm actually seeing and what's the appeal. Because the mistake that his detractors have always made is he's just some stupid clown who will disappear like a bumbling idiot, and they just keep being proven wrong every step of the way. And if anything, emboldening him. If you watch him on Rogan, for 3 hours talking, you're also like, oh, Trump has a more grounded sense of what's going on and an authority on the material and the issues than just the sound bites and the crazy things and the eating the dogs and eating. He's like, no, what they're doing is, they eventually started to do it, in inflation was through the roof and he starts talking about all this like real detailed policy stuff and conveys that he's like a real person with a real personality and real thoughts and feelings about particular issues. And when he speaks about them, that is what you're getting. You're getting a window into what he actually believes and thinks about things. Yeah. In contrast to any politician doing any interview ever, even Obama, who's good at selling it, when the cameras turn off, Obama's like, oh, anyway, that was annoying. Like, I think you're getting the off-camera version of Trump on camera, and you've always gotten that in a sense. Yeah, he's performative, but I don't think when the cameras shut off, he's transforming into his real self and going about his day. And then when the cameras turn on, he's saying, okay. That's what all the other politicians do. When the camera shuts off, you know Hillary Clinton is walking with her aide and going, oh, okay, what do I have to say now? Give me the talking points. Let's turn it on. And I think Trump's off camera is his on camera. And I think everyone has slept on that.
Yeah. I mean, whether that's true or not, the fact that you think that is a great feat by him to make you believe that, you know? So,
but one can't deny that there's an authenticity to him, whether you like it, love it, or hate it.
You don't know that because you've never seen him off camera. So you don't know.
Yeah,
but you believe it. But you believe it.
3 hours on Rogan will test your authenticity, don't you think?
True. That's why Kamala
can't do it.
I don't think she can. I mean, well, she's not going to do it, and I don't think she can.
And the fact that she can't. And when you see Obama doing the podcast circuit, it's maybe I'm biased because I wasn't a fan of his politics, but he's like, you know, and you know, he's talking, he's trying to be chill, you know, and doing all that, but I don't buy it. And like, say what you want about Trump, I kind of buy that he's being himself, which is which has always been at its core, the most refreshing part of him. Not necessarily a platform or policy thing, but the fact that, wow, what's so different about the guy? Oh, he's being himself in front of us and wanting to lead this country and be great, but he's being himself. And the politicians don't get that. You know,
what have you thought about his podcast tour?
Incredible.
Yeah.
An incredibly successful run. As
Theo Von.
You know who was behind that?
No.
Barron's best friend.
Oh yeah, he mentioned that on the.
He was on Piers Morgan. I forgot his name, but Barron has this best friend, Barron Trump's best friend, who's like a Generation Alpha, whatever you call it now, like younger than Gen Z, was apparently the key person behind his whole podcast press run. Was this kid who said, "Here's what you should do," and he starts with Theo Von, Flagrant, and all the way up to the top, which was Nelk Boys, Full Send podcast.
He did Nelk Boys, right?
And he's done it a couple times with Nelk Boys. I think.
Did he do Lex Fridman? He didn't do Lex Fridman.
Yes, he did.
I don't think he did do Lex Fridman.
He did Lex Fridman. Yep.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, in his office, right?
Yeah, did Lex.
Lex went to him. It was a big power move to see who he went to and who went to him.
Yeah.
He went to Flagrant, I think.
Yeah.
In New York.
He did. So
he went to Rogan.
And he went to
Theo
Rogan.
Went to him. Lex went to him.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting to see. I'm just saying it was the perfect route, and to me, that's where he shines the most. Why? Because like that's proof. Like Trump does best in non-controlled interviews. And
he sits also. He sits forward the whole time.
Yeah. The whole time with Rogan, he was just like, and you know, and you know that, right? Because he was stupid 25 years ago. You have to remember that. I really got his podcast impression down, which is a different thing. It's much more.
You got the bottom.
You know what it is about Trump? When Trump speaks, his jaw doesn't move, just his lips move. Most of the people talk like this. He talks like this, where his mouth is just moving. His jaw barely moves. There's barely any motion behind it. It's just and Joe, you're not a Kamala. You're not a Kamala person. You know when he gets, you're not a Kamala. You're not gonna vote for Kamala. You're not a Kamala person. But you know what happens to your ear, because you know a lot of people with worse ears than me. His mouth doesn't, his jaw doesn't move at all. It's just the lips. But it was the perfect round, and I think it was as successful for Trump as unsuccessful the Kamala attempt was, where she tried to do it, and I think it was just seen as inauthentic and didn't get anything. She had softball interview after softball interview, and she just was made to look bad and worse and worse. And what's interesting is I find there's this undercurrent of support for Trump in demographics and constituencies that you would never expect, like immigrants, Latinos, African Americans, and young people. Like, I think there's going to be surprising, like, skip the Gen Z hysterical ones. We lost Michael. We lost him. No,
sorry, that's it. Yeah.
If you skip like the Occupy Wall Street to Gen Z people who screamed in 2016, the next ones after them are like, I like Trump.
Yeah,
because
like
they like Theo. Yeah. It's a counter culture. It's back to that again, where they're like, I don't buy this Kamala bullshit. Who's going on?
Let
Drew
me ask
Barrymore?
you a question.
Yeah,
because being that Kamala was such a non-entity to the point that, like, if she loses, like, what's her identity? She doesn't even have an identity, really. Like, no one even really knows who or what she is. So given that she's kind of a clean slate,
Yeah.
She was given what like 3 or 4 months to run a campaign from fresh, like start from fresh.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think she could have done to compete better for someone like you or me?
She couldn't have gotten
starting from June. Could she have done anything different?
First of all, on policy alone, like she was not going to get me, because if she wasn't going to fully change her mind in her platform, she probably wasn't going to get me. But in terms of how she,
I'm saying, what could she have come out and said for you to be like, huh, interesting. I'm paying attention. Kamala.
I probably think she should have said, look, guys, I know this feels like bullshit. We told you Biden was okay, and we did the best we could, but he wasn't. And he is in cognitive. I think it's obvious to everyone that the president is struggling, and we tried our best. And just come out and said all the quiet parts out loud.
Right.
I know I haven't been chosen, and I'm going to do my best to try to earn your vote. And not stuck to every answer folding into the aspirations and goals of Americans. Like, I don't know if she's capable of that as an entity. I think her whole persona is to try to do the Obama playbook and say a lot of fluff, but she doesn't say it as well as Obama. Obama said the same kind of hope and change and the audacity of hope. What the hell does that mean? It means, like, what is that? It's nothing. There was nothing substantive to me out of Obama's mouth. He just was a better actor, and she's not. And then every answer she gets, what are you going to do on day one? The aspirations? Well, I'm a middle-class kid. What about the situation with the Middle East? Well, I'm a middle-class kid. The aspirations and hopes and dreams of everyday Americans. But like all that stuff, if she just came out and said like what she acknowledged the shortcoming, maybe it would have come across as a little more authentic. Like, I know I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I know what you guys are thinking, and you're right.
Yeah.
And then I would have canceled everything.
And also stuff like listen, it was 2020. I was running for president. I was a prosecutor. Like, I came out hard on transgender stuff. Like, I changed. I don't believe in that anymore. Like really walked lots of back and be like, with Israel, listen, if you're protesting for Hamas, don't vote for me. Like, if she came out like really, really, to what I think is like even keeled and like strong, like I wonder if this could be going very differently for her right now. I'm sure she can have a fun conversation. I'm sure she's capable of having a 2-hour conversation with Theo Von or Joe Rogan if she wants. She's not like she's a human being who's been like a successful professional person. Like, I'm sure. I wonder how things could have.
But we don't even know the extent.
Could have gone different.
We know nothing. We really know nothing about her. Yeah, and that's because of her. Because she was given a script, and she's, no matter what question comes her way, she does not give an answer, and everybody can see that. And she won't give any substantive answers. I don't think she has ideas or substantive ideas. And she's unpopular for that reason, that she's not authentic and doesn't have ideas, doesn't say anything. And I feel like there's this undercurrent feeling, even when Anderson Cooper asked her at a town hall, and she does the same exact move, where she goes, I think that's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. And I think the aspirations, and maybe, here we go, the aspirations and goals. I'm like, what is this? And then that's what I mean by the same move too, like not just calling Republicans racist and Nazis, but sticking to a canned script when people crave authenticity. You're playing an old game that loses.
What worries me also is given how difficult a time she seems to have communicating and working with people who like, how is she going to get anything done as president? Like, she's not a politician in that sense. She doesn't bring together disparate groups and get them to work together and communicate well to them. I'm not saying Trump's perfect, but I'm also like, what's the argument that she's going to be so great at this position?
The thing is, like, there's a Hillary Clinton-esque vibe to her, but the difference was Hillary Clinton was not so authentic and was giving canned responses, but she also did have a lot of substantive experience and knowledge of a lot of issues. In the Middle East, she understood things that have happened historically, regional things. She was experienced and intelligent. Like, you couldn't deny that about Hillary Clinton. I don't think Kamala possesses that. So she has she's just an empty vehicle for a empty kind of platform of talking points that even she doesn't really understand. The ideas she tries to provide are non-ideas. They're just fluffy things. And so, and the point is, like, everyone knows. Remember the day after Hillary Clinton lost, there were articles pouring out. We knew she was flawed. We knew she was bad. We just couldn't say it yet. I Let's go to predictions to wrap this up. Predictions
Yeah.
in the election special of Ami's house. My prediction. You want to go? I can go first. You can go first.
Predictions. Go first.
I predict. I'll say it here.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we want to let you know that Ami's House is now on Patreon. We love doing extra content, bonus footage with every episode. The best way to support us is to head on over to Patreon, become a guest, and support the show for $5 a month.
If you like watching Ami cut me off, Patreon is a
Patreon.com/Ami's House for bonus content. Thanks so much for your support.